Do you like interesting twigs? Is your acorn collection starting to impact the local squirrels?
Is your washer full of rocks? Do you want your decor to look like that of a mysterious yet budget-conscious museum curator? If so, join me on a DIY adventure to turn some stuff I foraged into quick wall art. The first thing I did was gather up all my little boxes, and I know that you all have these too. It's those boxes you get jewelry and tech in, and they're like nice and thick cardboard, and they're usually pretty small, and they seem like they would come in handy for something, so you don't want to throw them away. I mean, what kind of person just pulls out their new iPhone and throws that box away? Nope, you've got to hide it away somewhere in a dusty corner because you think you're going to do something with it, and you haven't, and it's been 2.5 years, but guess what? You are going to do something with it, and today is that day. Before I figured out the final layout, I traced the boxes to make a template in case I wanted to cut a cloth backing for the inside of the boxes once I was done. I figured it would be easier to do this step like right now while the boxes are all loose rather than to measure or trace once everything is glued together. Then I sort of evaluated in my mind what items I wanted to include and the space that I wanted to fill, and I just worked accordingly and arranged the boxes until I had a shape that I liked. If you have an odd little spot on your wall, this would be a great opportunity to make a nice weird shape with the boxes to fill it up. And once I knew what I wanted, I glued all the exterior box edges together and used every chip clip that I could wrangle to hold it together while it dried. I really do think a hot glue gun would have worked well for this, but I could not find one, and this worked out pretty well. If you have extra heavy items that you're putting, mounting inside the boxes when you're done, you might consider cutting a backing for the whole quote-unquote shelf out of a big piece of cardboard, or maybe reinforcing the back seams with tape, but it worked pretty well just gluing the edges together the way that I did it here. Once everything was dry, I used tape to cover the seams between each box. I used an old washi tape from my hoard because that's what I had, but I really feel like masking tape or painter's tape would probably work better and hold up better with the paint. You might not care if you can see the seams where the boxes are glued together. I think it's just kind of your preference. But once I had it taped up, I painted it with a couple coats of acrylic. I made this color with just a tube of black and a tube of red mixed together. And I think this was kind of another spot where I stopped and thought about what I'm putting in here and what base color would make those items pop out. Also, I was almost out of acrylic paint, so I had really limited options about what color I could paint it. You could also glue patterned paper or cloth backing into the boxes here, and I think that would add, kind of a cool touch if you wanted it to have a more sort of cluttered, eclectic look to it. I do think spray paint would be a faster way to do this, but I did not have any on hand, and I was very committed to not buying anything to make this project. We are going to take a crafting break to talk about what to put in your little boxes if you don't have something readily available. So if you're interested in making this project because you want to do some free Darkacademia vibes in your house, or maybe you have enough items on hand to fill some of the boxes, but that you want like a big giant array of boxes all with stuff in it, then you might want to go out and start collecting some things. And there's a few real easy ways to fill in boxes while still having a lot of visual interest that I just want to go over really quick. So first of all, anything that is like vegetative material, that could include like bark fragments. There are many trees that have easily sheddable bark that has very beautiful colors and pattern variations on it, that you can easily remove a little section of without damaging the tree. Seed pods, seeds, nuts, so that could include things like acorns, helicopters from maple trees, that kind of thing. You can add a little spread of those into a box, kind of have a neat little display of different or same species tree fruiting bodies, and that one's a pretty easy one to find too. I had not had extremely good luck putting pressed fresh flowers or leaves in this type of thing.
it can definitely be done, but not by me apparently. Of course, who doesn't want to go out and collect a bunch of little rocks? That's a great one too, and depending on where you are located in the country or the world, you can find tons of cool like color variation in the rocks in your local environment that you can arrange in an artistic way or by rock type, depending on, you know, kind of how exciting you are as a person. I actually have so many hoarded like bottles and jars of random things that I find. I am truly just a goblin when it comes to hoarding little things that I find outside. So I did not lack for little rocks, and in my defense, also my kid collects them too. So some of the rocks that I put in there were little ones that she had brought to me, and I just used those because they had the extra cuteness of being something that my kid gave me. So now I can't put it, you know, throw it back out in the creek because I feel like it's special now, so I have to hold on to it. If this is your jam, it's not everybody's jam, but it's some people's jam. Things like teeth and bones are, you know, definitely something that if you are a hiker or an outdoorsy person, you might come across. That might be your thing and it might not be your thing. It's definitely worth looking into if what you found is something that you can legally keep. Obviously, I don't mean like, is it, you know, part of a crime scene? I just mean, is it a type of animal that you're legally allowed to retain the bones from? Like there are some animals, especially like marine mammals and stuff, where there are laws surrounding like what parts of the animal that you can keep if you find it. Feathers is something that most of us come across. I think it might be the most like common animal part that many of us come across when we're outside. And that is where it gets a little bit sticky, because if you're in the United States, then all feathers, nests, eggshells of almost all bird species are protected by a law called the Migratory Bird Treaty Act, which actually makes it illegal for you to keep them in your possession without a particular type of permit. So if you would like to incorporate feathers, there are a couple ways to do that in an ethical way that will be, you know, in compliance with the law. The way that I did it was I used feathers from a domestic bird. I had some domestic pheasant feathers that were really beautiful that I wanted to use. Maybe if you have a pet bird or you know somebody with a pet bird, that would be a great option. Even chickens, like as weird as that sounds, can have some really beautiful feathers of, you know, all different colors and iridescence that can look really lovely in, you know, a display. And depending on whether you label them or not, like most people who look at it are not even going to know that they're chicken feathers, you know. Just kind of think outside the box. So many different options. It just depends on what you have on hand, what you're interested in, what you want it to look like visually, and really kind of the sky's the limit as far as like what a sort of random crap that you want to find and glue into your little cardboard boxes. I feel like just in the space of time that I've been sitting here, my posture is getting more and more shrimp-like. So I think let's get back to crafting. I feel like the paint is probably dry. My shovels. Nice.
Once it was dry, I went in and figured out how I wanted to arrange all the items. The heaviest was this piece of coal, so I put it in the center to make it easier to hang. I used poster putty on some of the items that I didn't want to get glue on. This is pretty cheap. I already had some on hand, so I was able to use it for a lot of the items in here. If you have that like fancy museum putty, that would also work great, I imagine. Some of the other items, especially the fragile ones that you can't push down on, like the cicada exoskeletons, I used Elmer's glue or E6000. This was just a really fun way to lay out, some little loose items that me or my kids had collected on outside blocks or, just kind of spotted on the ground lying around our farm. I think one of my favorite little displays on here is these creek rocks here in the corner that my toddler collected for me last summer that I just kind of lined up here in one of the boxes. If you want to go for the more museum-y, Darkacademia look, you could consider printing or handwriting labels for everything and gluing them to the inside of the box before you put the item in there. If you can't identify an item you found but you want that museum-y look, You have the option to write really bad so no one can tell that you just made up a word and used it as the label, or you could simply label it with the date and location of where you found it rather than the identity of the item. Once everything was dry, I hung it up on the wall with some command strips. You could definitely super glue picture hanging hardware onto the back if you're feeling fancy. And there we go, we got her up. I really enjoyed proving to my husband that I was going to actually use this old pile of jewelry boxes, and it's cute to be able to look up and see some of the items that my kid brings me. So if you try this out, I'd love to hear about it. Holler in the comments, let me know what your little collections are, and I will see you next time.